Welcome to Stories by Renee Rose Hawthorne, where sweet romance comes to life. Each episode, I'll be using AI narration to give life to clean, wholesome romances that span from contemporary small towns to magical fantasy realms. Whether you're folding laundry, taking a walk, or simply relaxing with your eyes closed, I hope these stories transport you to worlds where love blossoms in the most enchanting ways. So settle in, get comfortable, and allow yourself to be swept away by stories that warm the heart. Today's story is The Gallery Mix-Up, a sweet meet-cute story. Maya checked her phone again, the blue glow illuminating her nervous fingers. 7:42 p.m. Her invitation said 7:30. She'd arrived purposefully late, not wanting to be the first one at the gallery opening. But the building looked suspiciously dark from outside, the large windows reflecting the city lights rather than revealing the expected buzz of activity within. She pushed on the door tentatively, her heartbeat quickening with uncertainty, surprised when it swung open with a soft whoosh of cool air against her face. The main gallery space was dimly lit. Spotlights focused on walls still half empty, creating dramatic shadows across the unfinished exhibition. Packing materials lay scattered across the polished concrete floor. The scent of cardboard and bubble wrap mingling with the sharper notes of fresh paint and metal. Display pedestals stood without their glass covers, naked and waiting. There was no crowd of well-dressed people holding wine glasses, no quiet murmur of pretentious art conversation. Just silence broken only by the faint hum of the climate control system and the soft tap of her heels against the smooth floor. "Hello?" Her voice echoed in the open space, bounced off bare walls and high ceilings. Maya pulled the electronic invitation from her purse. The screen's glow illuminated her confused face and cast a soft blue tint over her features. Riverfront Gallery presents Julian Mercer, Intersections, Thursday, April 15th, 7:30 p.m. She looked up at the calendar notification on her phone. Wednesday, April 14th. Her cheeks flushed hot with embarrassment. The warmth spread to her neck and ears. She was a day early, standing alone in an unfinished gallery, like an actor who had arrived on stage before the set was complete. She turned to leave, her silk dress swishing softly around her knees, when a crash from the back room made her jump. The sound shattered the silence like broken glass. "Laura, is that you? Thank goodness. Could you give me a hand with this piece?" Maya froze, uncertain whether to answer or make a quick escape. Her fingers tightened around her purse strap. Before she could decide, a man backed through the doorway, carrying one end of a large metal sculpture that seemed determined to tangle in his shirt, the metal catching the light in random patterns as it moved. He wore paint-splattered jeans and a crumpled button-down with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms marked with smudges of color. Blues and golds, and a streak of crimson that looked almost like a calligrapher's brushstroke against his skin. I'm not Laura." The man startled, nearly dropping his end of the sculpture. The metal piece wobbled, catching the gallery lights in flashes of silver and bronze. The man had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, a warm amber brown that crinkled slightly at the corners. His hair looked like he'd been running his hands through it all day, the dark waves sticking up in a way that seemed both chaotic and oddly deliberate, like an artist's self-portrait. "Oh, I'm sorry." He set down the metal piece with a gentle scrape against the floor. "I thought you were the gallery assistant. We're not open tonight." He straightened up and looked at her properly for the first time. Took in her black dress, the delicate silver necklace at her throat, her carefully applied makeup. All preparations for an event that wasn't happening. "I know that now." Maya showed him her phone, the screen bright between them. I got the date wrong. I'm a day early for your opening. His expression shifted from confusion to amusement. His eyes relaxed with the change. That's a first. Usually people are fashionably late, not fashionably early by 24 hours. Maya laughed nervously. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, feeling the cool metal of her earring brush against her fingertips. I should go. I'm sorry to have disturbed you. Are you any good at holding things steady? He directed his gaze to her, and then the space around them. Excuse me? The assistant called in sick. I've got about 6 more pieces to install before tomorrow. That one? He pointed at the sculpture he'd been carrying, a complex structure of intertwined metal that seemed to change shape depending on the angle. Needs to be mounted on that wall, and I could use an extra pair of hands. Maya glanced at her watch. The delicate band caught the gallery light. She had nowhere else to be, and something about his direct manner intrigued her. The way he looked at her as if really seeing her, not just her presence in the wrong place at the wrong time. I can help for a little while, I guess? I'm Julian, by the way. The artist. He extended a paint-stained hand, flecks of gold and blue embedded in the fine lines of his palm. Maya? She took his hand in her own. His grip was firm but gentle, warm and slightly rough against her smoother skin. The brief contact sent a small current of awareness up her arm. I'm the accidental gallery assistant, apparently. Julian smiled, a genuine smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes and transformed his tired face, like one of his own sculptures catching unexpected light. Perfect. Let's start with this one. For the next hour, Maya found herself holding lighting fixtures. The metal surfaces cooled her fingers. She passed tools with handles worn smooth by use, and, without meaning to, she offered opinions on the placement of various pieces. The gallery transformed around them. From a disorganized space into something with intention and flow. Julian worked with focused intensity. He muttered to himself as he made minute adjustments. His movements were both deliberate and graceful, like a dancer who had practiced the same routine countless times. A little to the left, he directed as she held a delicate wire installation. There, that's it. Now it catches the light. Maya watched as the intertwined metal wires cast intricate shadows on the wall, creating patterns that shifted and danced with the slightest movement, like a living thing. It looks like a conversation, she said without thinking, the observation flowing naturally from something felt rather than considered. Julian paused, studying her face, his eyes intent on hers in a way that made her momentarily forget the weight of the piece in her hands. What do you mean? She felt self-conscious under his gaze. A flush of warmth rose to her cheeks again, but different from the earlier embarrassment. This was like revealing her inner thought life she normally kept to herself. The shadows? They remind me of speech bubbles, but overlapping. Like when people are talking over each other, or maybe finishing each other's thoughts. A slow smile spread across his face. In the gallery light, she noticed the faint lines around his eyes, the slight shadow of stubble along his jaw, the way his expression opened like a flower reaching toward the sun. He leaned slightly toward her. That's exactly what I was going for. Most people just see abstract shapes. I don't know much about art. That was just my impression. Maya shifted her weight, aware of how close they were standing, of the lingering scent of his soap or cologne beneath the stronger smells of paint and metal. Something spicy and warm. Insights come from people who don't overthink it, Julian said, moving to adjust a spotlight, the beam cutting through the dimness to create a perfect circle of light on the wall. The curator wrote 1,000 words about this piece discussing the interplay of negative space and metallic textures, but you got it in one sentence. They worked in comfortable silence, the space between them filled with the soft sounds of art being arranged, metal on concrete, the squeak of cleaning cloth on glass, the click of lighting fixtures being adjusted. Maya found herself enjoying the behind-the-scenes glimpse of exhibition preparation. So different from the polished result she would have seen tomorrow night. There was an intimacy to it. Like being allowed backstage at a performance, seeing the mechanisms that created the magic. "Hungry?" Julian asked eventually. The question hung in the air between them, carrying more potential than its simple syllables suggested. Before she could answer, her stomach growled loudly, making them both laugh, the sound bright and unexpected in the quiet gallery, bouncing off the high ceiling and coming back to them like a shared secret. "I'll take that as a yes," he said, reaching for his phone, his fingers leaving faint smudges on the screen. "Ty okay?" 20 minutes later, they sat cross-legged on the gallery floor, surrounded by art and empty containers of pad thai. The spicy sweet aroma filled the space with warmth. The food was still hot enough to steam slightly in the cool air of the gallery. Maya savored the moment and the pleasant burn of chilies on her tongue. Julian opened a bottle of wine meant for tomorrow's opening, poured the deep red liquid into paper cups that should have diminished the experience, but somehow made it more special, more authentic. "So what brought you to my exhibition?" he asked, leaning back against the wall. The relaxed posture softened his earlier intensity, revealing someone comfortable in his own skin, despite the unconventional dinner setting. The gallery lights caught in his hair, turning the dark waves almost blue-black where they fell across his forehead. Maya smiled into her cup, the wine warming her from the inside. Its rich notes complemented the lingering flavors of their meal. "None of the above. My boss gave me the invitation. He knows the gallery owner, and I think he was hoping I'd make some connections for our design firm." "Ah, networking. The true purpose of art openings," Julian said with a wry smile that somehow conveyed both acceptance and gentle mockery of the system he was part of. "Is that disappointing?" Maya asked, noticing the way his hands never seemed to be still, always adjusting something. His glasses, his sleeve. The strength and gentle way he moved captured her focus. He shrugged, the movement causing the fabric of his shirt to pull slightly across his shoulders. "It's realistic, but you're here a day early, eating takeout on a dusty floor with the artist. That's definitely not in your networking playbook." "No," she agreed, looking around at the half-finished exhibition, at the interplay of light and shadow they'd created together, at the empty gallery that somehow felt more alive than it would tomorrow when full of people. "This is much better." Julian's eyes met hers, and something shifted in the air between them, a connection that transcended their chance meeting and brief acquaintance. His gaze was steady, curious, holding hers for a beat longer than casual conversation required. "Tomorrow night, I'll be talking about artistic vision and creative processes to people who are checking their phones or scanning the room for someone more important to talk to. None of them will see what you've seen tonight." "What's that?" Maya asked quietly, aware of how still the gallery had become, as if the art itself were listening. "The mess behind the magic, the process." He waved his hands around them, the movement creating momentary shadows across the walls. "This is the real exhibition, the becoming. Tomorrow is just the being." Maya nodded, understanding what he meant beyond the words themselves. She'd always preferred seeing how things were made, the mechanics behind completed projects, the journey rather than the destination. In her design work, the development phase was always more interesting than the finished product. The sketches, the prototypes, the moments of inspiration and revision that never made it to the final presentation. "Will you come tomorrow?" Julian asked, his voice casual but his eyes intent, focused on her with an artist's attention to detail, as if memorizing the play of light across her features. Maya hesitated, twisting the stem of her paper cup between her fingers. "Would that be weird? After this?" "I'd like you to be there. You could see how your wall hanging turned out in the proper lighting." His voice carried a note of something more than professional interest, a warmth that suggested personal connection beyond their impromptu collaboration. "My wall hanging? The one you helped place. I'm thinking of changing the title to Conversation Now, thanks to you." He smiled again, that transformative expression that seemed to illuminate him from within. Maya felt a lightness that spread through her body like the wine she'd been sipping. "I'd like that." Julian stood and offered his hand to help her up, his palm warm and solid against hers, the contact lasting perhaps a moment longer than necessary. The gallery air seemed charged between them, full of unspoken possibilities. "I should finish setting up, or tomorrow's guests will be looking at half an exhibition." Maya gathered her things, suddenly aware that their impromptu evening was ending, the magic of their unexpected meeting drawing to a close. The gallery felt different now, no longer an empty, unfinished space, but a place filled with new meaning. At the gallery door, she turned back to him, framed in the doorway with his art spread behind him like extensions of himself. "Thank you for not kicking me out when I showed up on the wrong day." "Thank you for becoming my accidental assistant," he replied, his expression soft in the muted light. "Best gallery mix-up I've ever had." She stepped out into the cool evening air, the contrast between the temperature inside and outside raising goosebumps along her arms. For once, being in the wrong place at exactly the right time had led to something unexpectedly wonderful, a connection that felt both serendipitous and somehow inevitable. As she walked to her car, her heels clicking a gentle rhythm on the pavement, Maya realized she was looking forward to tomorrow night's opening, not for the networking, but for the chance to see Julian in his element, knowing she had been part of bringing his vision to life. And perhaps, just perhaps, for the opportunity to start a new conversation of their own, one that would cast shadows and light as intricate and beautiful as the art they'd arranged together. The end of this story. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Stories from Renee Rose Hawthorne. I hope this tale brought a little warmth and romance to your day. If you enjoyed what you heard and would like to experience more of my clean, heartwarming love stories, you will find novellas and short story collections on Amazon or 11 Labs. Until next time, when I'll have another sweet romance to share with you, this is Renee Rose Hawthorne wishing you love, joy, and happy endings wherever you go.